Immediate hit. To this day, it's #1 on a lot of people's list of their favorite movie of all time. In 1965, it earned 5 Oscars, including Best Director and Best Picture. And Julie Antipole-Hearst joins us. She wrote a book about the musical, and she has a new one out called The Sound of Music, The Making of America's Favorite Movie. And before the show started, I asked Julie, I said, how did you come about writing this book? And she said, well, I was there. I worked with the director,
yes,
who also, you told me, was coming off of being the director for West Side Story back in the 60s.
For West Side Story, and then he won 2 Oscars for Sound of Music.
Wow.
And I was his story editor, so I worked in Hollywood for many years, and I worked as a story editor, and he kept, every day, he'd be getting letters from fans asking questions. And Robert Wise was one of the sweetest men in the world, and he would sit down and try to answer every single piece of fan mail. And I was in the office, and I said, how come there's not a book written about The Sound of Music? At that time, there weren't many books about movies, but there was one on The Wizard of Oz, and there was one on It's a Wonderful Life. Now there's, you know, every movie has a book.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll write a book about The Sound of Music and answer all the questions. And he said, great. So
what do you think it is about the movie, though? Because, I mean, to me, I'm going to say it's the music, right? I mean, everybody knows the soundtrack. You think that's it, or is there more to it than that?
I think there's a lot of things. I think it's sort of like macaroni and cheese and, you know, tuna noodle casserole. It's comfort food.
Well, it is, yeah.
You know what there are some movies you watch all the time, but I think it's also people really being brave and courageous, and not a lot of people are like that these days, or there are fewer. I think it's the music. It's Julie Andrews. How can you go wrong with that? It's the scenery. I think it was one of those perfect movies, the direction, the acting, everything.
Any behind-the-scenes stories that really stick out for you that are your favorites, or any juicy gossip you want to tell us, Julia?
Well,
let's sell some books. Gossip.
Well,
let's go.
I mean, I can tell you, Christopher Plummer was not a big fan of the movie, although
really,
I must have. Oh no, he
you
called
mean after the fact even?
While he thought it was beneath him.
Really?
He would call it The Sound of Mucus. However, I will say, and I will tell you a story about that in a second. I went to the memorial service for Robert Wise years ago in Hollywood, and he got up to speak, and he said, you know, I was pretty much a jerk then, and he, you know, he
had an ego check then after
yes,
that. Okay.
And as he's gotten older, but he used to go every night to the Hotel Bristol along with the nuns, and they used to drink, and he'd play the piano.
Oh, wait, time out. The people, the actors that played the nuns? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay, all right.
yeah.
Or the real nuns?
No, the actors. And so they would play, he'd play the piano till the wee hours of the night, and they'd drink, and, you know, they'd go off to bed, and he'd play and then go directly to the set the next morning.
So one thing I love about the book is you talk to the actors, but you also talk to the real family and the people that the movie was about.
Yes.
So let's talk about Julie Andrews' character, Maria. Did Hollywood change that character a lot, or was it pretty much following real life?
The real Maria, unfortunately, was not as nice and sweet as the Julie Andrews Maria. And this comes from her family. I mean, she was a wonderful person.
And this is her we're seeing here?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. That actually was a shot. She did come on the set one day and was in the background. She was like, there was a fountain or something, and she was in the background as an extra, and so that was a publicity shot.
Okay.
But,
was she a singing governess, though? Please tell me she was a singing governess. She was.
Well, she was a singer, yes, and they sang. The Von Trapps were big. I mean, they were
singing. She was a part of that.
Oh, yeah, she started it. She was a real, you know, she made everything move. She was the real force behind the family, and sometimes the family didn't want to be in that force. You know, they didn't want to sing. They wanted to do their own thing, especially after they moved to America. But she was like kind of very forceful.
Wow, and here's the real family, a photo there.
Yeah,
interesting.
Of course, they've went on to have a singing career touring the world.
Oh yeah, they did, absolutely. And they're still in Stowe, Vermont. They have their ski lodge, and Johannes, who's the youngest of both the captain and Maria, ran it for a long time, and now his son and grandson, and still the family runs it.
Were there, I guess, was there anything that surprised you when you were writing this book, or things you learned from the actors or the crew about struggles shooting the movie?
Oh, there were a lot of struggles. When they went to Salzburg, it rained a lot, and so they almost didn't finish the picture on time. They'd have to set up and wait for like a break for like, okay, the sun came out for 5 minutes, sort of like we do in Portland.
Yeah.
And you get out and you shoot it and then you come back in. But Julie Andrews was great, though, I must say. She was everything you think Julie Andrews would be.
So one last question. Somebody once told me when I was in Colorado Springs that up around Pikes Peak is where they actually shot the scene. That's not true.
No,
I was lied
Salzburg.
to. It was all shot over in Austria.
Yeah.
Where are you getting your information?
Yeah,
I don't know. People lie to me all the time.
You're very gullible.
Where can we find the book at?
Well, first of all, there's my website, Julia A. Hirsch, HIRSCH.com.
Okay.
Or you can go on Amazon or any one of those, Barnes & Noble.
And if you're like me, if you're a light reader, wonderful photographs.
Like
There's over
and many of them in
250
here.
photos. A lot of them are from Fox, and a lot of them are from the casting crew who sent them to me directly and said, put them in the book. So,
all right.
Well, we wish you all the best. I've
you.
enjoyed looking at the book, and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Now from Vancouver, Washington, I might add.
Yes, I'm part of the community.
Thank you. Well, stick around because we have